Okay, thank you so much. First, I would like to thank all of you, no, for inviting me to my good friend Geraldine. This is one of the most important events also in my uh, promotion of this modern Filipino architecture and design. Because to reach you guys there in the UAE, I mean, it's something that's very important to me in presenting the modern Philippines. No? I will be talking today about modern Filipino sensibility. It's the modern Filipino architecture, the modern Filipino architecture and design. But it's not limited to architecture. This is actually beyond architecture. This is beyond design. This is about the modernity of the minds of the Filipinos that I'm promoting, and that's why it's very important for me to have it and to be able to join you today. And I'm so glad that it's also well attended by a lot of people because we have architects, accountants, I believe we have doctors, dentists, teachers, and engineers, no? So this is something that I'm very excited about. So I hope you enjoy and somehow have something to take home after my talk. So I'll just make cuento to all of you what this modern Filipino architecture and design is all about. No? So please let me start with my slide. So we are Fuji Royal, no? We are actually the modern Filipino architecture and design advocate here in the Philippines and abroad. No? We are together doing this collaboration in trying to define our nation through architecture and design. And in doing this, we are also somehow very eager in trying to refine what this modern Filipino architecture and design, and at the same time refining its process, its system of how to achieve it. And one of the key elements in doing a modern Filipino architecture and design, to be able to present it to the world, we have to do total design. No? That means to say we are basically doing and trying to manage everything in the project because we need to be able to somehow achieve authenticity, no, in our designs, and it cannot be, as we call it, chapsuy, no, in Filipino. Tayo madami tayong nakikitang halo-halo na design in the Philippines, and this is something that we want to get out of. No, we want to get out of the bondage of this confusion, of this many things that is unclear. No? And doing total design, we have to work together with many people. Um, but we do master planning, architecture, and all the items listed here in the screen. What you'll see is it's an overall approach. No, it's an overarching approach of creativity. So the modern Filipino sensibility is not limited to architecture and design alone, but it is everywhere. It can be in the modern Filipino system of, even collecting taxes or collecting your license from the LTO. That requires modernity, that requires design. Um, and that is part of my role also as the co-chair of the first council, design advisory council of the Philippines, wherein uh, I would like to put together and be able to create a very fluid collaboration with many allied services and creative people who can improve our country. Again, this is not limited to private practice, but this extends to the government. For everyone, I would like to share that. doing total design, you have to be able to open up to collaboration. We cannot, I cannot do everything, and all of us need the help of everyone to be able to achieve this modern Filipino architecture and design, or the modern Filipino sensibility. And in doing collaboration, we have to present, and in fact, we have to define collaboration. We needed to come up with a definition of collaboration with our own terms to be able to open up to this modernity of the mind. For us, collaboration is where ego is absent, and then the ideas will be constantly present. Um, this is quite important because I believe that the vision is so big. It's so big that we want the better Philippines to happen. But one person cannot do it alone. It needs us as Filipinos to work together, to find ways and envision this together, and let the generations that will come and help us achieve the moving and the evolving Filipino sensibility. Now, so the modern collaboration actually is the modern bayanihan. It is our Filipino traits. In fact, I'm very happy to see all of you guys with this organization of Filipinos overseas. That you, even in the distance, you are all together. You are still doing bayanihan, and I believe it's the modern bayanihan that I'm saying. It will never be absent in the Filipino soul. I think it's always with us as Filipinos to do bayanihan and to always work together and find ways. Buji Royal is all about ideas. We are all about creativity. We are all about concepts of betterment. This is who we are. We are a naturalist, and later I'll explain to you why I am a naturalist, and my partner Buji. Um, I am also a modernist, so I love to see things progressing. I love to see things moving forward, and again, modernity is something that is, I've embraced for the past 25 years in my practice. I've always seek for progress, and I've always dreamt of modernity for the country, for the Philippines. We are Filipino. Importantly, this is something that we celebrate. We cherish this. We are proud to present the Filipino-ness and the Filipino in us in the whole part of the globe. No? So, as I present to you this fullness of what I'm doing as a modern Filipino architecture and design, I would like you to first understand the depth of where it's coming from. I would like you to understand the roots. I would like you to understand the precepts of this full idea. No? That this concept of modern Filipinos is not just a style that we are doing. It is not a style of design. It is actually coming from a reasoning, a belief system. And that belief system is that concept of nature. No? I believe in the nature of things, that everything evolves organically. That nature is always in control, and it will always be managing us. And the first part of that philosophy, and this is something I discovered 25 years ago. Um, Nature is peace. Nature will always be peaceful. For me, nature will always present something good. The whole concept of creation is for the good, and I believe my creator will not create something that's bad. So, nature's peace is my foundation. This is something I discovered uh, so many years back when I was in college. And I evolved to understand that nature will always do its own thing. Just don't get in the way, but the nature of things is all about peace. You know, you can look at an erupting volcano, and it's still peaceful. You know? This is how I feel, and this is how I see things, and that is why I appreciate nature all the time. This second precept is something that I needed to resolve within me in the middle of my career because I've been battling with the concept, and this is not just applicable to architecture, but this is applicable to anybody, to humanity, wherein man and nature, the concept before, wherein you say man and nature, is always a separated element. There's always a separation, there's duality in this. But I would like to challenge everyone to live a different life wherein man is believed to be nature itself. Because once you believe that man is nature, I tell you, you will never disrespect nature again the way we are doing it before. This is something that gave me conviction in doing what is modern Filipino. In fact, in my experience, and I just want to share with you this particular experience, two of my good friends came to me and asked me, Royal, why are you doing modern Filipino architecture and design? You should do modern tropical, you know, modern Asian, modern something, for the reason that you are limiting yourself and you will not, you know, be able to go out there. But that's where I disagree because I believe that the variety of the world is something very distinct. Like the Filipinos were placed in the Philippines for a reason. The French were placed in France for a reason. And the Italians are placed in Italy for a reason. Now, the challenge is to evolve and to be better as a variety of what your nation is all about and what you are as a people. So this is my challenge to all Filipinos, wherein we are one of the great varieties of the world. For me, there is always equality. But the challenge is to be better, to make your standards be global. It's not constantly that the global standards is what we adapt to the Philippines. Why can't we create our own refined standards, be better as Filipinos, and be able to share it to the globe? So this is the variety of the world. The variety of the world is there's a reason for all of us why we are in this particular soil. And this is what I'm saying. The variety of the world is something that we can bring out there. That's why you Filipinos who are working abroad are out there. You are being imported by different countries, different nations, because you have a variety that the other nations are looking for. And this is something that we should cultivate. So, in terms of architecture, and I believe there's a lot of architects here. I mean, you can relate to this issue. A lot of people, when you ask them what is Filipino architecture, they usually have this big question mark, and in fact, they will look at you blankly and have this confused face because they will tell you that there is no Philippine architecture. No, there is nothing because we were colonized, so on and so forth. But I have to resolve this issue because I want to get out of the bandage of confusion. And this is a bandage that we carry up to now. You know, this colonial mentality, this strong concept that we feel that, you know, it's the imported that's better, it's the thing that's outside that's better. But we are forgetting that we Filipinos can be a variety, you know, with great design, with great creativity, with great contribution. So this concept of what is Filipino, I needed to resolve this as an architect. I needed to define what is Filipino so that I can move forward to say what's modern Filipino architecture and design. I cannot say and claim I'm doing modern Filipino architecture if I don't even know what's Filipino. So, if you look at the Bahay Kubo and the Ifugao house or any of those houses that we've seen from the past, uh, they're all Filipino architecture of their time. But the key to real and honest Filipino architecture is all about the truthfulness of the approach. When Juan de la Cruz, take note, Juan de la Cruz was not even an architect. He was not an architect. He was a Filipino with his truthful approach in trying to put together the pre-pawid or the nipa hut or the nipa, the pre-bamboo, the concept of raising the floor, pitch roof that became the silhouette of the roof. Those became a manifestation of what is Filipino architecture that we understand today. But take note, it was just done truthfully with the practicality in mind of Juan de la Cruz. So the authenticity of the product is the result of this truthfulness. This truthfulness will now guide us to come up with conviction, with our dignity, with our integrity as Filipinos, that we have our own identity. So this is the key to achieving a modern Filipino architecture and design. So what is modern Filipino architecture and design now that we know what is Filipino? And I hope that enlightens some of the architects and maybe some of you guys there. When I talk about modern Filipino, please don't make a mistake in the impression of seeing a visual or an architecture that is just pure metal or concrete or glass or anything. Modernity for me is about betterment. So when I proclaim modern Filipino city as for Clark, or the modern Philippines for Bangkota, or for the modern Filipino architecture and design, I always refer to the betterment. When I start to put modernity in the word Filipino, I always seek for something better. That is why it will never stop. It will always progress. It is not contemporary. It is not now, limited to now. It is moving forward. Even to the next generation, if I share this concept to one person and you share it to the next child that you have or your children, the modernity of the mind is important. This is what I'm sharing. I would like to give an example, which I always share with people. The concept of time, that when we say Filipino time, you tend to already say you're late. No? You already admit and embrace the fact that Filipino time is always late. But when you say, I am a modern Filipino, modernity is betterment. I cannot claim to be a modern Filipino and I'm later than the prescribed time. I need to be, if I'm a modern Filipino, I need to be ahead of time or at least beyond time. Right away, you can claim to be modern. You can claim as Filipino to be modern and better. So, I don't believe that we have to wait for us to be first world to be better. We can all be better now. I present myself as Filipino as I can be. And this is where I'm saying that start digging, start digging who we are as Filipino. We are not limited. We have 6,000, 4,000, 7,000 years of history. We're wearing golds and beautiful crafts, beautiful works that are made by our ancestors. And we can get all these roots of dignity and pride beyond the 400 years. So that's what I'm just trying to say. There are more stories that we are not aware of that you can all be proud of as Filipino. Because we are very rooted, we are very deeply rooted. It needs to be truthful, as I said, because I believe that when Juan de la Cruz created the Bahay Kubo, he was just very honest with it, and what came out to be is it became very practical. It became a luxury for a Filipino for the time. During those times, when you didn't have shelter, Juan de la Cruz came out with an idea, came up with an idea that a bahay kubo can be built. And it protected them from the rain, the heart to protect and create a shelter for the family, the heart to take care of the family, which is very Filipino, was there. So he built the bahay kubo. He created that, and it became a luxury of a Filipino during that time because they don't need to sleep anymore in caves or in the mud because when it rains, it gets muddy, they're protected. With the concept of practical luxury, we have to coin this practical luxury. We call it practical luxury because as I mentioned to you a while ago, sorry, I cannot wait to be first world before I can experience luxury. I don't agree with that because I believe that the Filipinos deserve luxury now. I cannot wait for tomorrow. It needs to happen now. That luxury can be achieved by practicality, by design. And we are all practical. We are all very Filipino. We are all creative. As Juan de la Cruz made it, those are free bamboo, those are free pawit, free nipa. And it was really about the creativity of the Filipino that made it luxurious. So we can do this. We can do something that can really elevate us as people. No? Now, just to share with you the interpretation and the execution of this concept, of this modern Filipino architecture and design, I would like to just share with you some of the projects that we have done. And again, just to somehow let you understand how
Thank you.
A modern Filipino sensibility can be for everybody. No? Before, when we say Filipino, Baduy. No? When we say Filipino, we always put ourselves down. You know? We try to demoralize ourselves. You know, we always see the bad things about the Philippines. You know? This time, we want to bring out the essence of the Filipino, the nature of the Filipino. So through this architecture, you know, the funny thing is, Fuji Royal is about luxury. You know, this is we service to a high-end clientele. We do luxury homes. We do high-end homes. We do projects that are resorts and private villas and towers and so on. But what I'm trying to say is, before, people would look for a modern Thai architecture for their homes, a modern Mediterranean, a modern Indonesian or Balinese. They will always look for that. But now, you know what? People, when they come to us, they will ask us, Royal, can you build us a modern Filipino architecture? And this is a celebration that I always enjoy inside me. And I'm just so eager to share it with everyone because um, you know it's just amazing how it all transitioned from being what we see as Baduy is now a brand of a modern Filipino, and it's out there. So these houses that you'll be seeing, I'll be browsing on these houses just for you to see the sensibility and the I would say in layman's term would be more of a taste, of the Filipinos. But again, please take note that this is not a style, it is not a look, but it is a mindset that I would like to share with everyone. So if you look at it, there you always see something that's very Filipino, which is maaliwalas. No? Uh, because our tropicality is something that we have to really keep and we have to celebrate it. Our we always challenge ourselves that all our houses, we should not turn on a single bulb, no electricity. If we can do that, if we can just keep using natural light, the better for us. No, so this is a house that we built in Cebu. So this is, I believe some of you know our furniture designer Kenneth is a good friend. So um, again, every house will have its own distinct character, and this is just one of the I would say an exercise that I didn't cut a single tree here. I did not cut a single major tree in the location and work with the site and be able to come up with a very open and very natural. It's almost like just being in the garden. But you see, my curtain, against all this glass, the orientation of the architecture is facing, the right angles against the sun. And whenever there is sun, I make sure that the tree will protect me and filter my shade. So I think that is where nature and architecture should collaborate. Here you can see that this is a guest house. If you look at the top part where the lady is going up, this is almost like a modern interpretation of an Ifugao house, where you have the lower level as a social space, and the upper level is the sleeping area where a person can stand. No? What's nice here is this couple is, I mean, the lady is a German, but the concept is to have their family whenever they come to the Philippines. They have a place for the guests, and I wanted them to experience a Philippine setting. The tropicality. So on the right side is the Batalan, where they have a jacuzzi, outdoor jacuzzi, and then again the sleeping and the social space. Now, practical luxury. If you look at the left side of the screen, you see the staircase. The modernity gives you so much freedom. No? Again, what I'm saying is, a Filipino house doesn't need to look like a bahay kubo all the time. This is not a bahay kubo. But this I would claim, and I would tell anybody and look at them in the eye and say, this is a modern Filipino architecture. You know, this staircase was designed because of that practicality in the mind and the inspiration of nature as human ergonomics. Nobody really stepped in the middle of a spiral staircase, so I didn't put a column in the middle. So I just placed a stringer. So what happened is you minimize all the elements and you make something very iconic in terms of design. So you can simplify things by doing great the creativity and design. So we've done some houses also in Forbes, wherein you can see and feel the tropicality of the spaces. Here you almost like enter a garden, and on the right side is the main house. You can see that the sliding door on the right side slides, and that's the living room. No? The area where there are actually two chairs are actually just the lanai. No, it's actually just the lanai area. And this is another house in Corinthian Hills. So again, it's always about managing sun, managing the air, managing the tropicality, the trees and the elements. And again, it's not about decoration. It's all about the function and the lifestyle of that Filipino that's living here that we put together. So we have also houses that are very compact, but you can see a modern Filipino house can be this way. It can have the affordability, the concept of openness is there, and it can be global. It can be something very international. You know? So what I'm trying to say is we can present our sensibility to the world. And just one story that I would like to share with you when we were doing the House of Manny Pacquiao. Um, Manny came to us and Jinky, and it so happened that they have initial designs in their house. And what they showed us are actually designs that are Louis the 14th, and the very French designs. And when we presented and we said to them, they asked us if we're presenting something. I said, we're just gonna present you our previous work, and this is the sensibility. And when I said to him, managing, this is like You are an icon of Philippine boxing and the icon of boxing globally, and you are a Filipino. Isn't it amazing that instead of you having a background, whenever you entertain guests from all over the world and they come to the Philippines, isn't it amazing if your background is the modern Philippines and not a French background or an Italian background? Right there, and then he decided he would go for a modern Filipino. So this is what I'm saying, that we need first to love ourselves and make sure we don't stop in loving ourselves as Filipinos, but we have to make sure that we define ourselves as Filipinos. We have to make ourselves better because out there are many refinements. There are good global practices, but we as Filipinos should create better global practices that is something that we can share to the world. Something that's very good for Filipinos and that can be shared to another tropical country like Singapore, Indonesia, or Malaysia, because it's good. It works in a tropical country.